I saw this chart, and it had the top 10 movies from 1989, 99, and 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And in 89, there were 2 sequels and 8 on the top 10 list. 2 sequels and 8 original movies. In 99, there were 3 original movies, like 5 sequels and 2 remakes. And in 2009, there were 8 sequels and 2 remakes and no original movies on the top 10 list.
Wow.
And so, like, what does that mean for the industry? And not just movies, but entertainment.
Yeah. This is actually something we sort of talked about in the theater history class. The idea of sort of re-examining older works. And I think it is sort of describes the period we're in right now.
It's a little bit predictable, because if you go back to 89 or so, and then you think about those 20 years, and now we're into the the next decade version of that. This had been happening in terms of live theater for quite some time, where producers felt like they had to make money through a guaranteed product to sell.
The entertainment industry is not keeping up with the advances in technology, and I think that's one of the struggles is to make money. Obviously, the default is to reconnect with blockbusters from the past, or subject matter that are almost guaranteed will be successful financially. So there's much less risk taking.
The reality is that digital media has changed everything, and unfortunately I think Hollywood is struggling to figure out how to adapt to that.
In what way are they going to be able to keep up? Like, is this going with the internet? Like, it's such a new thing. Like, this is something that no one, like, when it happened, even when it happened, people didn't realize what it was going to be.
Right.
And, like, is that going to change? Like, is that going to change the way we see movies? Is that going to be like, in a couple of years, will people even be going to the movies anymore? Like, will that even be a thing that exists, or do you think that they're going to be able to find that happy middle ground, or are movies just going to be gone and people stay home and watch whatever they're watching on the computer?
I don't think movies will be gone. I think what you just described is happening all across in a number of different aspects of our personal lives. The internet originally, when the World Wide Web, this web thing happened, it was seen very much like television was seen at that same point, that it was a sense of push technology where a producer fed content to the consumer, and the consumer had very little influence over what that content was. Well, very quickly the consumer recognized that they had control, and so they could help chart the path, or even completely chart the path for what the entertainment forms were. And the entertainment industry again is trying to catch up with that.
Yes, you see more regurgitation in terms of what's at the box office for cinema. You see people trying to make bank by enhancing and embracing the spectacular, which is, spectacle goes all the way back to some Aristotle in terms of what makes for good theater. And so you see a lot of spectacle, and so CGI has been a part of that mix. CGI was very cool and gee whiz, and now of course it's just embedded in just about everything that's high budget. And that will probably continue. It's not like that's going to go away. The use of stars to sell tickets has been around for really centuries, but certainly Hollywood has had to embrace that as well, just to get people to go to the theater, because there's so much competition for their eyeballs. We can sit at home with a variety of entertainment devices and have an immersive experience that entertains us. And so That's the negative. That's the downside. They're struggling with how to reinvent themselves. On the flip side, there has been a renaissance of storytelling in different ways. And so independent film was kind of one of the early directions where you started to see the impact of digital media as the price of equipment came down and as editing became possible even on something like your laptop. That democratized the process, and so a lot more people, a lot more artists could be involved with that.
It's possible, or at least in a sense, movies have become so permeated and we've made so many things so quickly. Like there's been so many jumps in technology and movies, and it's like a new movie every week coming out for so many years that there just aren't new ideas anymore. That everything can be traced back to, it's like, oh yeah, it's a little bit new, they changed the names, but it's Shakespeare, or it's, you know, like this is something new. And you know, we've had a couple people like Christopher Nolan who's come out with like Memento and The Prestige and Inception, which are all much more new ideas, but it seems so rare now for a new idea to pop up. Like, is it even possible to have these new things coming up regularly anymore, or is it going to become a rarity?
You know, I think the entertainment industry, theater in general, goes through phases where the ideas get worn out. If we look at the history of theater, there are periods where where the story is prominent, where the story is exciting. It's all about the plot and presenting a story. There are other periods where the spectacle. It's all about spectacle, where the scenery and the lights and the and that aspect of production is the reason people go to theater. There are other times when it's all about the actor. So I'm not sure if we can say definitively that we are sort of at the end of the run. I think we are at a time where we're in a transition period where we are out of ideas right now, but someone always comes through with something that is groundbreaking.
I think every artist goes through that panic attack moment where they think there's no new territory to explore. I remember having that in grad school where I said, you know, I was in a literature class and I was reading what I thought was a really compelling play, and it had been produced in 1951, and I said, man, if that's where the innovation stopped, you know, we're in real trouble. And I had a very similar question and conversation with the instructor of that class. Here's the reality. Well, I don't know. This is one perspective on this reality. Some people have distilled storytelling down to some very basic plots, some archetypal characters, and some would say that there's maybe as few as, you know, two handfuls of stories, and then those types have been you know, so successful over the years that they keep getting recycled. Okay. What is novel and new at any given moment in time is how that is applied to an audience's expectations and what's going on politically, socially, culturally, what's happening in terms of current events. And because diversity is allowed now in a way in terms of character type, because we're not limited by what the big studios are willing to produce, I think you've got, as I said earlier, a renaissance of storytelling going on. And so I used to be a little concerned about, you know, has creativity stopped in storytelling? Now I'm actually as excited as ever.
As popular as independent video is getting, as popular as independent games, apps, these small companies that are sprouting up all over the internet and on YouTube, and these little people that no one's ever heard of, as good as they may be at the writing, as good actors that they may have, as popular or as talented as they are in their field, the production value will never be what it can be for a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Because they will never be that big, because they are an internet sensation, which is very different from being a huge company.
Yeah. I don't know. In the long run, I think it can still be quite democratic. In the short run, there may always be a gap between what a big studio can accomplish and what a smaller producer could accomplish. But if I think about Star Wars, for example, you know, nobody could do lightsabers. when they first came out, except a big studio, right? Or Lucas. Now, you and I, with probably $200 worth of software at most, can do lightsabers and make that look really good. So how much time passed between those two different moments in time? Not that much in the grand scheme of things. I think we'll continue to see that the consumer will have access to tools that we couldn't even imagine right now. And at some point, I don't know, it's always hard to fathom this, but you would think that at some point, the immersive nature of storytelling, if it's so rich and detailed, that even the big studios don't have an advantage over the smaller player. That's the holy grail for storytellers, right? In terms of equality. At that point, everybody gets a fair shake to tell their story.
Changes in technology, it's possible to create a very effective, very well-made film at very low cost with the introduction of new technologies. And that's definitely going to continue.
What I'm very interested in for my future is working with the gaming industry.
Mm-hmm.
And gaming is to me what movies and books and stuff are to a lot of people. Like
Sure.
that is the escape. Like that's my thing. And I read books and watch movies, but gaming is like what I really connect with. And I think that I see it as an art myself.
Sure.
I see it as it's a brand new way to tell a story that is very effective. I want to, what I want to do is try and go in and try to help people see that gaming is the new thing in entertainment that is parallel and is on the same level as theater and movies and TV and the internet and everything. But I feel like it is still this. There are a lot of people who still consider it a toy because when it first came out, you have Pac-Man and Tetris and it exploded so quickly. Like it jumped from these little 8-bit things moving around and like Pong to in 10 years these massive 3D worlds, which significantly changed what it can be about and the story that it can tell. And I think there are a lot of people that still see it as this children's toy. And what do you think about this? There's been so much crossover now with books being made into games and movies being made into games, and there's all this. It's all kind of just blurring the lines. Mm-hmm. And what do you think that's going to mean for the industry as a whole? The way that everything just kind of connects to each other now. That you can't write a book and have it become popular without there not being a movie about it, and you can't have a popular movie without there being a game about it. And it all just kind of, it's like this triangle that there is something for each consumer category.
Sure. I think that's incredibly exciting. I think you're connecting with something that is the beginning, the foundation of this new direction that the entertainment industry is taking. So I think you're connecting with that. And at the right time.
It's all kind of coming together and converging, and so gaming is a huge part of this. Will we be happy until we have an immersive environment, whether that's virtual or literally something architectural in our house? I don't know. We're probably going to see both versions of that. We'll probably see the completely virtual, where our senses are tricked into thinking that we're in an immersive environment. Of course, there's already layers of that going on. Or will we see something like the holodeck, where it's a physical space and people can enter into it, and the environment is customizable and the storylines are on demand? And will we see also evidence that we go from being passive consumers to active participants in the story?
Just from a technical standpoint and engaging the spectator, I think theater and film can really learn a lot from how the gaming industry engages the person playing the game and maintains that engagement over 2 or 3 hours or even longer. So I think there is a great deal to be learned from that. So I think from my perspective, it's a very exciting time.
Yeah.